that's not going to mean anything to you. But he said yeehaw while moving energy through his body that I have never seen another human move.
Well, yeehaw. Yeehaw. How very fitting. We're live here on Facebook. We're going to saddle this one and ride it into the sunset. Muses coming at you as we do on the first Sunday of every month. And we're so excited to be here with all of you today as we dive into a conversation about experiencing life in unity, all of the elements and facets of that, what it means to us, and how we can all do it better. Oh, what a beautiful topic. Let's all just take a nice deep breath and soak in the idea of unity for just a moment. Take ourselves to that place in recognition and awareness of what it means to be in unity, to be in oneness, which, as we all can acknowledge, is the opposite of separation. This is a different place to rest our hearts and to move in a different way through this realm when we're tapped into unity consciousness, living in a space of unity. We move different. We respond different. We accept and receive differently. And those are a few of the things that come right into my awareness about what it really means to be in that space. And I know that we're going to get into some really beautiful conversation here. So I'm going to pass the torch. I'd first like to hear from Kat today. Kat, if you could also share, and then I'd like it if we could just all go around and share a little bit about what it really means to be in that place of unity, before we get any more deeply into the different elements of getting there or getting out of where you are and back into there, so on and so forth. What does that really mean to you, Kat? Experiencing life in unity. How does that stand out to you?
Bliss. Bliss, I would say. Peace. One of the things, well, okay, so we'll do that later. What I would say is that it's like entering a different world. Or that's not right. What I would say is not entering a different world, but it's like the entire availability, the entirety of the availability here opens up, and you are in what feels like a different world, because what we live in day to day, most of us, for the most part, me anyway, isn't that. It isn't always, maybe as babies we are, but our experience here with the socialization and the verbalization is altered. And we, I think for the most part, are experiencing a very shallow, flat existence on this plane, when what's available is so deep and so rich, and so utterly illuminating, like lighting everything up, experiencing I don't know how else to say it, be all at once, right? Everything gets lit up. There's no separation. You're in everything. Everything is in you. Communication flows readily from everybody that's on this side of the veil and the other side of the veil. Anybody who wants to commune with you anyway. And it's not flat, shallow, and dull. I don't, it's amazing. I experienced it this year for the very first time. So slow learner over here. I can't imagine not having access to it. I just can't.
To that space.
Can you share your experience with everybody so they have a good idea what you're talking about?
So for me, I'd love to hear stuff you talk about how it opened up for you too, because I don't think that it's accidental that it happened to each of us out in the rest of the natural world. Not while sitting in my office, certainly. I spent a lot of time with a very dear friend earlier this year going down, paddleboarding down a river. My friend Courtney and my dog Izzy and myself. And there was an afternoon that I found myself in an altered state going down the river. And what I would say is I had let go of everything. Really, I had just let go and intended to relax and commune. And what ended up happening was all of a sudden I realized that I was I felt so good. I remember having the thought that, gosh, I hope this lasts. And then immediately followed by, well, just relax into it, right? So I was just breathing and going down the river, and there was a moment, there were quite a few moments where the river goes from anywhere from this deep to probably 10, 12 feet deep. And I was sitting on the paddleboard, just leaning back on my arms. And all of a sudden I realized this, I don't know if it's gonna sound a little, this might be hard to imagine. I could see the bottom of the river. I could see, it wasn't like I was seeing a movie. It was like I had a total awareness of everything. I was in everything and everything was in me. I was in the water. The water was in me as well. I realized that the consciousness of the water was able to sort of see me or experience me the same way that I was experiencing the water. I knew where everything was. I knew exactly how deep it was. At the same moments, there was the wind was kind of moving through my body, not really. I don't know how else to say this. There wasn't any separation. It wasn't like me surrounded by the air and the water sitting on the paddleboard. Everything all at once became one. And I remember what was interesting about this, several different things were interesting about this. A couple minutes into this, okay, two things. Let me back up for 1 second. I remember exactly where we were on the river. You've gone down it a few times. You can recognize where things are, right? And I knew where I was when this had occurred. And so what ended up happening a little while later was my friend Courtney said, who's a photographer, she's great, said, oh, I took pictures of you back there and there are orbs all around you. And I thought to myself, oh, okay, whatever. Like maybe there was a dot here or there. And I didn't really think about it. I just kind of let it go. But I know where we were when I had that experience, and I know where we were when she said that. And so looking at the pictures later, I was able to identify that she took those pictures at the exact moment that experience was occurring. And it was really cool to see what popped up in the film. The other thing that happened, there were orbs all around me, literally moving, light spots, orbs, and things shooting through the frame all over the place. And then maybe 2 minutes into that, we were passing these cliffs, and there was a bald eagle sitting on the top of the cliff. And I thought, oh my gosh, how cool. I have never seen a bald eagle in Arizona. I didn't know they were here. And I started to talk to the bird, and I had made a request kind of, and in that moment, or that it's not like I had made a request, because this was all live time, like it was happening like this. So I started thinking about making a request, and immediately it was altered. And the only way that I can explain this is that my entire way of thinking changed, because it wasn't me as me and then that beautiful bird as that bird over there. It was like family is what it felt like. And what I would have normally asked or requested or spoken was not really appropriate. And I was very aware of that. And so my request changed. And I asked in that moment some version of kind of like, show me who you are. Like, I would love to know who you are, sort of thing. You know, if you're open. And not a minute later, I passed the cliff because the river was moving along, and this bird swoops down. So he passed probably, I don't know, 5 feet in front of me with his arms, or his wings, totally, obviously, because he was flying, spread out. But he turned his back, so I'll do this. He turned his back to me and went like that around me, right in front of me, so that I could see every single thing that was happening. It was like I could feel it. And right next to me, swooped down and grabbed a fish so close to me that I could tell you it was a rainbow trout. I could still see the colors on the fish. Picked it up, turned his head and looked at me, and then moved on along. And it was, he had shown me literally kind of who he is, what his life is all about, how he does, what he does. It was about ability. It was about, it was also very much about being who you are. There was so much that was packed into that all came back and forth between us as I just sat there with my mouth hanging wide open. And my entire trip down the river was altered. And every time I've gone to the river since, there has been a communion, and a learning in a very different way. There have been times that the river has moved me upstream. Paddle. I just let the river take me where the river takes me, almost always, because I want to. And there have literally been times where the river has carried us upstream against current for 45 minutes, not like a little eddy, taking us to places. It's just an utter communion. There is a unification of all, and that's where it started for me, and that's where I've experienced most of it. So that was, I'll shut up now. Sorry.
You don't have to shut up.
Beautiful. That was
We like it when you do the opposite of shut up.
Thank you.
You let it all out. That's a beautiful account. What about you, Chris? What does the experience of living in unity mean for you?
So, I've been thinking about this since we decided to do this topic. And my first reaction when you guys have described your experiences was that I hadn't had one like that. And I've been told clearly by spirit that I'm full of shit on a regular basis. So there have definitely been times that I've experienced something that it's just hard to explain. So when I think of these are the experiences that really come to life. And it was something that used to happen to me repeatedly when I was a child. Anybody watch Star Trek?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So Star Trek, the movies, there was a movie where this planet learned how to slow down time. And she was showing Picard this, and the particles of the air slowed down, and you could see the particles. You could see the particles moving. And she said, and you can change time so that a perfect moment can last forever. And I remember I used to have this ability when I was a kid, and time would just stop. And I'd be able to look around, and I'd be able to see and feel everything. It was like an expansion, like everything just cracks wide open. Time slows down, and I felt just whole is the word that's really coming to light. That started to go away when I had all those issues with my mother. For some reason, I had always associated it with her, that feeling with her. But when I started getting into spirituality again with the ARE in Virginia Beach, and I was having all those aha moments, it was like that again. And for me, it feels, it's such an expansion that the lines between my skin and the air dissolve. Everything just felt like it made sense. It was all there for me. I was there for it. Just every part of it felt so supportive and so ingrained with who I was that the world just, for that moment, for that hour, for those days, just felt different. And I get those experiences every once in a while, and it's often outside. It's not that I'm doing anything specific. It just happens. And I totally get what you're saying, Kat, about, just you kind of catch yourself. And I compare this honestly to having an orgasm. And I know this is a terrible way of describing this.
No,
but
it's good.
You think about, right before you have an orgasm, it's actually a really stressful time. You're like, oh my God, is it going to come? Is it, no pun intended. So we got stories. But so you're right on the edge and you want it to happen. So you almost like trick yourself. You start to get in your head versus your body. And when you let go, that's when it happens. That's when you can actually fall over the edge. That's how I think of it. Once I get out of my own head and stop saying, is time slowing down, and just let it happen, that's when that expansion just feels right for me. So I shared my orgasm stories. I've got some control issues.
That's awesome. No holding back. I love, there's never any accident here. I love these conversations so much. I said that was the first time I've ever experienced it. And then you started talking about childhood experiences, and immediately it was like one after the next, after the next. Oh yeah, this one. So I would venture to guess that we all experience this all over the place and just aren't really aren't
consciously aware. Yeah. It's such a subconscious natural.
Or you're very consciously aware, but you're not, like, maybe you don't know what it is, or maybe you have, or you do know what it is, but you have the experience and then you just move on to the next. I don't know, like,
too shy to share it, a little bit of fear that people will think you're crazy.
Well, or maybe you just think everybody has these experiences.
Yeah.
Like, this is, because when you have it, it's not like you sit, especially as a kid, it's not like you sit back and go, wow, this is unique, or how cool this is. It's like, that's just part of your experience. And then somewhere along the line, I feel like we lose that a little bit. Whether, like you mentioned, you thought it was attached to your mom or whatever. I think stress and priorities and obligations, and I don't know. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
I think it's training for sure. We get more and more wrapped up in society and less wrapped up in our individuality. And it becomes less, normal is not the right word. I think we allow less as we age.
And we try to control more. Yeah.
What did you say, Katie?
Yeah.
And she said we allow less, and I said, and we try to control more as we age.
Yeah, so true.
One of the things that my Qigong master had said, I had brought my son in at one point for him to, try to work with. My son was really struggling, and he was in his late teens. And I said, do you mind if I sit, and just watch? And he said, yeah. And so he always, has you put your hand up, and he, obviously is a master of, blending unity, consciousness, and energy, and, working with it in a positive way. And when he put, his hands up to my son said, oh, I can feel the breeze. Mm-hmm. And it's the, it's literally the movement of the energy that is happening at all times, but it's kind of like, are you sensitive enough to it? Yeah, if you relaxed and allowed it, and you're not questioning things in your mind, like, wait, there's no way there could be a breeze, like we do as adults. And I was listening to the two of them talk, and my Qigong master was saying, most, we all have this as children, this ability. And, most people by, the time they're teenagers, they've shut this down, or, like to Chris, what she was saying, you just turn it off, whatever, you lose your innocence, that ability to still believe in magic and wonder everywhere. And so, he was explaining that the fact that he could still feel that, was a beautiful, positive thing. And I just thought that was such like a great lesson and, example of, we all have this ability to tap into these beautiful, epic moments at any experiences, I should say, not even moments. They're just experiences of oneness with it all. And for me, it's interesting because my daughter's best friend is a photographer. And so she was doing a photo shoot last weekend. And so she said I could tag along, and she took a couple pictures of me, like for my website or whatever. And so I didn't really even tell her what I wanted, to convey in the pictures. I said, I just want to, I connect with something bigger than myself. You call that God, you call that the universe, whatever you want to call it. And so when the people that had showed up for the photo shoot were like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And she answered for me, and she called me free spirit. And she said that, she was taking some pictures of me. And I hadn't heard that word in so long, free spirit. And when I leaned into it, I thought it's such a beautiful explanation of what we are talking about, and how to achieve that state of unity consciousness. Because it really, we all say this every time we come on and do a show, live with your heart, let your heart, lead the way and guide you. And that's where that awe and that childlike wonder and that innocence, it resides in your heart. And when you relax, and when you let yourself be free, and when you don't have all those layers of, well, I have to act this way in front of this person, or I have to, censor what I'm going to say because it might, be offensive or whatever. You know what I mean? When you truly are in a state of free expression, that's when you can open up to feeling the breeze, to having these experiences where you're kind of, moving in the rhythms with the natural world. And I tend to have these types of experiences, the most magical ones, when I am in nature. And I think, again, it's just a higher level. You're already in an amplified resonance, around you. So it's probably an easier, more natural way to tap into that. But can you imagine the power if the entire world were able to stop for 1 minute, and we all just, expanded our heart energy, and we all kind of tapped in together? 1 minute, it would change everything.
Yeah.
While you're saying that, I'm hearing that this is a lot of what's religion, a lot of the power of religion that had its roots in this kind of honing in and tapping into that power, that collective prayer, collectively focusing the energy and the love to one essence. That's something that a lot of us have gotten away from, that communal tapping into unity. I don't know, and that brings us back to Steph, which is actually a really good circular one.
It's great timing too, because what you just said brought up, I mean, you mentioned religion, Chris, and when I think of unity consciousness, and I think of not only the original foundation of what it meant to be religious, right? To be connected, to be in that state of oneness. This really is where it all started. Mm-hmm. When religion, right? I'm going to air quote religion all day long. As a preacher and someone who stands at the pulpit and delivers a message, I don't know, maybe I'm in the best position to say, you know what? your religion 9 times out of 10 is brainwashing you to believe something that isn't true because it's been bastardized. So we're going to save all that for another show, but back it up. I want to reel it back in a little bit, because what you said about unity reminded me of the word new, and it's a Greek word, and it means a bit different thing to different people who speak different languages. It means we in French. It is us. It is not singular. It is plural. It is the all. It is all of us. But that word in Greek means the eye of the heart. And when the cross was originally formed, there was a loop at the top. It wasn't a symbol of where Jesus died. That loop at the top is almost symbolic of more than one thing at one time, being the eye of the needle that you pass through, but also the eye of the heart, that centered heart space, loving, united, energetic connection that we all hold to one another, to the earth, to God, which is not outside of us. There is no separation when you're talking we and you're talking heart space, and you're talking unity consciousness. It's the opposite. And that just, as you were speaking on religion, it's like, man, the reminder of creation energy and the divine essence that we have all been impregnated with brings us right back together.
And that cross with the loop at the top, I remember studying this as a child, the Ankh from ancient Egypt, which meant life, the key to life. I always wondered if Christianity had somehow taken a version of that symbol or was influenced by that symbol.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of beautiful that if you think about Jesus dying on the cross and the cross ultimately representing life, it takes that to a whole new level, that story. Yeah. And I will say, speaking of, I mentioned like I've had, a lot of my most magical experiences in nature, but I also have had a lot of my most magical experiences in church. And, not even in the religious context of, reading a particular verse or whatever, but it's more when everybody is up and singing. And like you said, Stephanie, you've just got that, it's that unity, everybody's heart is open and the energy is there. And it's like, girls, sometimes I can feel Jesus in the pew next to me, I am like, there is some, spiritual masters up in here. And it's like electricity's moving and I've got tears running down my face. And it's just the most beautiful, you can't even put words on it, feeling of connectedness. And so, I still love to go to church to this day for that.
And what Melinda's saying here is what was popping into my head as well. I think that's why these places are so powerful still. When we travel, we go to historical churches, places of worship. They still have that power because of that collective consciousness, that unity seeping down and tapping into earth. And it stays in the brick and mortar. It stays in the ground. It stays in the very air. So it still attracts people to this day. It's created its own like unity portals. So you can feel what they were feeling when they were in there.
Yeah.
Steph, I would love to hear about your experience in the jungle.
It's big and alive right now as we're discussing all of this. The conversation of, tapping into unity consciousness when we're in places in nature, and also these points on the earth where there has been activity, where there have been people that have passed before us and will pass after us, all of us being there, of course, at the same time. So it's not complicated at all. It's been an incredible awakening for me, this idea of unity consciousness. And while I can say it's something that I feel I have experienced before this year, searching my archives here just to see, I feel like the first time I was consciously aware of it was a really intense download on New Year's Day 2020. And we could save that for another story too, but it was a different kind of experience. And it was very much what you were talking about, Kat, where you can get a sense, you have this sense of not being anything, being everything all at one time. And it's like you're observing every facet and element of the experience that you're in from outside of it. It's strange. It's a strange experience. And since Mexico and being in the jungle, not only being drawn to Mexico once this year, but twice, knowing that I was called back there for greater purpose, and then having had the experience that I had, which is still sort of unraveling itself. It's at a place of much deeper understanding now than it was, a week after I got back from Mexico. But that unity consciousness, that element of unity consciousness, and the way that I was drawn not only to natural places on the earth, but to this particular space on the earth that sits in the ley lines. It sits in the ley lines of Mother Earth. So much activation happening there, so much that I've come to understand about the connection between the Mayans and Lemuria and Mary Magdalene's place in all of that, and therefore my place in this location on the earth, and the work that I did there this summer. Well, let me just dive in, no pun intended. What cracked everything back open for me was my ear, the experience of rupturing my eardrum. And there were a lot of different elements that were just all in the same fabric of that experience. So many synchronicities that pulled me into that experience. And a lot of them were things that you would consider not good, right? Like a bad experience. Part of what I believe allowed me to have this unity consciousness, this living in unity experience that started in Mexico and then continued to weave itself through my I'm going to call it everyday life. It's strange to call experiencing unity an everyday thing, but gosh, if we could get back to that, like Katie said, what started it all was Joe losing my phone. Sorry, Joe. He lost my phone in the sea, and it was not like, it's hard to explain. Something in me in that moment knew that there was higher purpose in it already, and I was not willing to fight it. I was not willing to grumble and bitch and moan. Oh man, because here we are on vacation, in another country. I got kids to be in contact with. I got all this stuff and no phone. I got a business I'm running, no phone, and he's absolutely crushed. And I could see part of, maybe there's a nugget here. I don't know. And you ladies can help me unpack it if there is. But part of my realization that there was something greater to come as a result of this start, the unraveling, the beginning of it, the synchronicity that started it all, was seeing him be so upset and so down on himself and so like cuss words, right? Like, I can't believe I did that, and just, and still and just, we got to find it. No, okay, we've already looked over there. We got to go over, we're snorkeling, right? Like, we're going to find my phone in the sea, in the Caribbean Sea. The two of us, can you just, right? We got on our snorkels and we're like, we're going to find this thing. Seeing him so upset about it felt in me so very dissonant to what was coming that I was like, no, you're not. It's like, you're not seeing it. Wipe your mask off better. Like, there's some kind of gem here for us. And it took me literally three seconds just to look at him and be like, it's okay. It is okay. Like, just stop and look around. Stand up on that rock right there. Look around you. We are in the Caribbean. We are in Mexico together in a lagoon. We got all day. We got
love it.
to do. We are in the sunshine. We got mangoes at the villa. We got, like, what? No complaining. None. Because a big thing, something like that, and a big thing, right? Like, in the scheme of things, what is my cell phone? But when somebody loses a phone at sea and you're on vacation, it can feel kind of shitty.
Yeah.
And so let's compare this to anything that would seem like it's going to ruin the next week. somehow it's going to find a way. We can let it, if we want to give over our timeline to that reality, we can, but we don't have to. Something in that moment, that day, said to me, it was like God, spirit, universe, give the creation, whatever name you choose, whispered in my ear and said, I got something way better. Way better for you than what you had planned. Because I admittedly was in a little bit of a place where like my event was coming to a close. My husband was showing up. There's like I don't know, I want to say expectation. I preach and teach to have the experience, not the expectation, but I still had a little bit kind of hanging on in me going, okay, the rest of this, we're going to unfold this experience so that he can get a taste of your work now that you've closed this beautiful container, and what is to come had just gone like this, is what it seemed like. Right? Because how are you supposed to coordinate with people? How are you supposed to do anything in a third world country with no phone? No phone. That day, and the way that one event opened up to so much possibility that involved so much more pain, so much more of a twist or a turn than I had ever anticipated, was priming me to let go. Let go of your preconceived notions of what this experience is supposed to be, and just allow it to happen. Because whether you're uncomfortable or not, there's gold in it. Whether you're happy about what's unfolding or not, there are teaching lessons, there are learning lessons that you are meant to absorb because you called it in. And so here I was having this realization with 24 hours later, a ruptured eardrum. Had he not lost my phone and we had not spent 5 hours, 4 hours snorkeling, diving down, looking in crevices in the lagoon, we're in this channel that like opens up to the sea, and it's like carrying everything out, right? So that whole day we spent underwater. Your girl was not an avid snorkeler, not an experienced underwater diver of any kind under any uncertain terms. And that day of us having lost my phone primed me to raise my hand and be like, I want to be certified as a scuba diver. Because I will admit I am a little bit extra and I do catch on quick. And when I think I know how to do something, I decide that I know how to do it infinitely. And so just having 4 hours of snorkeling experience meant that I was ready to barrel backwards off the gunnel of a boat and go 40 feet below the Caribbean Sea, which I did. And bursting my eardrum on the first descent. I did 2 open water dives that day. And I think I've talked about this a little bit. I've lost track of where and how many times I've told the story. But we did 2 open water dives that day. And when I say raised my hand and said certified me, an hour and a half later, we were on the boat out in the sea. We got the rundown on the gear. We got brilliant guy directing us and giving us all of the instruction and all of that kind of stuff. And to his defense, he said, this is a zero discomfort sport. Zero discomfort sport. I have a high threshold for pain and I don't listen well. So on that first dive, I was uncomfortable and also thinking, man, this is so fucking cool. Like, the adrenaline is going and I'm like, I don't want to get down there. My ear hurts. It doesn't hurt that bad. It'll be okay. I keep going. I clear. I'm like clearing to, bring harmony back to the cavities in my head, and one side clears and one side doesn't. But I didn't know it didn't clear until I was already going down, and then the pain surpassed condition critical, and I was experiencing this like bottle rocket going off in my ear. And it was uncomfortable and loud and a little bit scary, but it only lasted like 3 seconds, and then everything was fine. And I was like this.
Places to be. I need everybody to come on.
Yeah, no, I'm good. That was weird for a second, but I'm good now, is what I'm thinking to myself while I'm giving them the double okay to keep going. Well, I had a little hole in my ear, so equalizing the pressure was no big deal from there on out. It really wasn't. It's just like, you let a little seawater in, it'll be all right. Guys, this isn't how you do it.
Note for the kids at home.
This isn't how you do it. This is not how you do it. But what I've realized, I don't even know how to sum this up into, a beautiful takeaway that can accurately describe the gift that this became for me. That rupture of the eardrum and the fact that it happened, it sucked. It ruined, right? Except it didn't, the rest of the trip. It connected me immediately to the psychic nature of my body. And what am I being told through this experience? What is my body telling me through this? And that's all stuff that I got deeper into later when I was past the, self-regulation phase of like, how do I handle the pain? How do I show up here for the next 10 days and stay a smiling hostess in Mexico to my husband and also let him take care of me? That was a little bit of a strange dynamic to walk. But being in that place of surrender, being in that place of letting go, and not only accepting, but inviting unity into my life at a different level, meant that I was willing to walk through the pain of that experience 100 times to learn what it taught me and to invite what would happen next, which has been this intense realization and experience of unity consciousness. The number of times that I felt what Kat has done a beautiful job of explaining, and I'm not even going to try to explain again, that experience of the all in any given moment or extended period of time. It happened over and over and over again. It happened in the jungle hut as I was surrounded by Gerard and his family, these modern Mayans living in a hut in the jungle, who were giving us, for all intents and purposes, a tour. We were there for a tour, but I woke up that day and was immediately hit with this intuitive ping of, you're in pain and it's okay. You're going to be with people who can help you today. You will be helped. And in whatever way, shape, form, or fashion that was going to show up, I was willing to accept it for what it was going to be, not trying to figure it out ahead of time, not trying to, project what it was that I wanted to have happen that day on any of it. It's, again, the letting go, the not being in control, as Katie said, letting go of that control of this is how it has to happen. Because having a ruptured eardrum in a third world country is not ideal, I will say. I had a trained, here I go again, and now I'm making faces because my experience with the healthcare is not, trained doctor, come to the condo and say, you need antibiotics and surgery. Joe's in the corner like laughing. He's like, you're talking to the wrong girl.
Yeah, I'm not gonna happen here.
You're talking to the wrong girl. But all of the experiences that I had, whether it was the doctor who treated me and my realization of the words that he was speaking being dissonant to my experience, whether it was, ending up in the jungle and being in the hands of these people who live in deep connection to Mother Earth every second of every day of their life, and seeing a new element of who I am in that I was unaware of. Whether it was coming back and healing myself post-trip, and having these incredibly, I don't even know, like, what word do you make an adjective out of epiphany? It's like epiphanic. These realizations, these downloads and bits of information that were showing me, even in a moment of pain, what my purpose was as a human being, my energetic frequency and signature, having been in that place at that time to close loops and timelines, to activate points on the planet that needed reactivated. and carrying with me Mary Magdalene's essence to do that work, to be in the places that I was meant to be from before I even decided I was going. And going like this and just like buckling your seatbelt and taking the ride with eyes wide open in full acceptance of whatever you will discover about yourself along the way. Whether you like it, whether it triggers you, whether it draws up something else for you to learn from, because none of what happened to me from that, rupture onward was easy. The only easy part was just letting go and having the experience. That was the easiest part of all of it. And it's the letting go and the having of the experience that drew me into such deep synchronization that I have, and I'm not going to say continually, there are times when I kind of pop back out and I'm like, fuck, I was there for a long time. When you come out of that space of unity back into the headspace, or the ego screaming at you about something, or judgment, or whatever it is, whatever human, right, experience that we're more frequently accustomed to having, you have that realization then of like where you weren't. Oh, I haven't been having this experience of deep egoic, programming or judgment or procrastination, like whatever the thing is, whatever the human thing is that you're struggling with. You come back out of that place of unity. That's sort of, to me, when you realize where you've been.
Yeah.
Versus having the realization while you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's, to me, I haven't had that, because when you're, and I'm going to see if I can articulate this because Spirit's bringing in this like analogy, but when we tell our minds to separate and categorize, we're in the ego. So if you're in a place of unity, how can you realize that you're in a place of unity?
Yeah.
You're living from the soul. You're living from a soul-centered space where that is your first language. Unity is your first language, and it always will be. Stepping back out of that is sometimes when we realize, oh, wow, okay. You see it a little bit differently.
There's a couple beautiful things to unpack there. So I want to, I guess, piggyback on some of that. The ability to break a soul pattern, right? And that's often what we're going through every day. Is something we've agreed to come back and do over and over again until we learn. We have to learn something. So, like the idea of losing the phone with your husband, allowing in that moment in real time snaps that pattern. Says, okay, I'm done with that one. I don't need it. And it transcends all of time and space and the soul journey in that moment to truly just allow it to happen and say, okay, I'm going to experience this. It seems so intellectually easy to do, to just take whatever's happening to you right now and just allow it. And by doing so, you're not pushing against the pattern anymore. Because when you flow, your soul is allowed to learn and move and be versus struggling to learn. So I absolutely love that. And the grace and the ability to be able to do that for your family and to show them that pathway is just awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I got a funny little share if anybody wants to hear it, but what you just said about breaking the pattern, it brought up a really, I don't know, to me, I think it's integral and foundational, the breaking of the pattern. Oh, fuck, I'm getting so much just coming right into my head as I'm saying this. So that day that he lost my phone, before he lost it, and I mean moments, like less than 5 minutes, I had given him my phone to put on his wrist just to hold for me for a minute. I handed it to him to hold. He ended up tying it around his wrist. And in that, I'm not even kidding you, in that moment, I thought to myself, oh shit, he's going to fucking lose my phone. And the control in me was immediately like, give it back, give it back, give it back. I can't lose that. And just like this, I went, all right, well, we're meant to have this experience, whatever happens.
You sure will, or were.
And when he lost it, there was no surprise. No.
Yeah.
Not for me. He was mad and surprised and shocked at himself. Like, I can't believe I did that. I even tied it twice. I'm like, no, I knew you were going to lose it.
Him being able to see you do that and accept it it's definitely part of his lesson. You know, look at how she handled that. That's the grace and how easy that was. Well, hell, I want that. I want to be able to accept the next time I feed the Atlantic Ocean my cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff happens all the time. So if I stub my toe, if I get stuck in traffic, if I get rear-ended, just like you said, I like that. Just snap yourself in. All right, let's take this ride together. Because it's what's happening in between the moments that's really important. It's not the moment that means anything. It's not that accident. It's not the stub toe. It's what do you do with it? It's that moment in between that and the next.
Yeah. We left the lagoon that day and he wanted to look more. And I was like, no, I'm like, it's fine. I said, if I'm meant to have my phone back, my phone will find me. And he's shaking his head going, what are you talking about? We just lost your phone in a lagoon channel that opens up to the sea with all this movement and current people and all kinds of stuff, right? And I really was not worried about it. I said, you got to quit worrying about it. Stop it. If it's meant to find me, it'll find me. It's going to come back and find me. I really feel like it is. We don't need to keep looking for it. Someone else will sort that out. It'll be fine. That next day we had a phone call.
Did somebody find your phone?
Found your phone.
And it turned on and still worked?
Found your phone. Yep.
Wow. What kind of phone is this?
We were coming back from the trip, from the scuba diving trip. I had done 2 deep sea dives. I even stayed above land for an hour to let my ear have a rest and make sure everything was okay. It was not. I went back down again. That second one did me in. And the guy that was training us found us at the quick shop on the far end of town where we were waiting for someone to come meet and bring me my phone, because we had a notice when we came back out that said your phone has been found, blah, 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 a text message from a guy. And so we had arranged to meet him between leaving there and getting there to the quick shop or whatever. And what would have unfolded, or how the trip would have ended, or what would have happened had I not just completely surrendered to what was happening with me. The losing of the phone, the diving, the ear, just everything that unfolded after that. Sometimes that little niggle that tells you, hey, you can break the pattern this time. It's okay. Even though it's scary, even though you're like, oh man, really I am a firm believer. Sometimes the universe, God, will come back around with that same pattern just to see if you're still a dumbass.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Didn't learn last time. Here we go again.
Here we are again. What are you going to do differently? How are you going to respond differently? How are you going to step into this from the heart in full acceptance and surrender of what I have in store for you that is so much better than what you could have possibly imagined? And it might be on the side of 10 more uncomfortable things. But all the synchronicities line up and they'll take you there if you let them. You might find yourself in the jungle having Gerard squeeze eucalyptus oil into your ear and shotgun a tobacco cigarette into your ear canal.
What you
Yeah,
didn't
I've had some
do,
weird
right?
experiences in the jungle.
There's more. There's so much more. I mean,
Whoa.
the things for anyone watching who's like, oh, well, that's one cute story. No, this is tied to a priestess initiation with Mary Magdalene. This is tied to a conscious conception experience, the first ever on the heels of this entire event. That's not a thing that I was even attempting to embody, that I found myself in the experience of. And all tied together, all synchronistically enmeshed in that choice point, that starting place of letting go and letting it happen, not fighting it. Releasing the pattern can feel like a fight. It can feel like a big fight because you're fighting with yourself about A, whether or not to release it. How is it still serving you? Are you ready to let go of that or not? B, what if? All the what ifs, right? When I break this pattern, what happens next? What's in its place? Oh my God, the unknown. So much tied into just accepting your part and what it means to show up differently in that pattern.
Beautifully said. I would say we're always fighting with just ourselves. You can't control anybody else in this world. The pain, the suffering, the fear, it's coming from within. So the challenge for the week, which I will definitely take on, is to allow, regardless of what happens this week, I'm going to allow. I'm going to buckle in and I'm going to experience and see what happens.
That's all we can do.
Yeah, and somebody once said to me, and it's just really resonated every time anybody ever talks about, should and fighting and, versus allowing, versus, settling into. I had a conversation with this man, and one of the things he said to me was, like the full embodiment of who you are is really just a choice to comfortably sit back into who you are.
Yeah.
The fight is it's absolutely not required. It's like sitting back into a comfortable easy chair. And if it isn't comfortable, if it isn't, I don't mean every single moment of every single thing you do should be the easiest thing you ever did necessarily, but if it feels like you're fighting, that's something to pay attention to. If it feels like you're pushing and, toiling and whatever, reassess, breathe, connect, receive, and surrender.
That would be a good bumper sticker. That last part. What did you say? Receive, surrender. What was the first one?
Receive, connect, surrender.
I don't even know.
Connect, receive, surrender.
Reassess.
We're gonna have to play it back.
We're going to watch it again. Well, we thought it would be beautiful to end this show with some specific biofeedback frequencies that anybody listening, we can all just take a moment and connect in unity and open our hearts to receive these perfected resonances that will help us with all of these things, to allow, to surrender, to see the highest possible outcome of any situation that you're in, and just be open to the signs. So you guys up for it?
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't we go ahead? Everybody just start to close your eyes, tuning inward, taking some nice, deep, letting go breaths, releasing any struggle that you've had this week, any anxiety, any fear of the unknown, just letting it all go. Starting to focus on that heart center, feeling it relax, giving yourself permission to open your heart fully. Start to see that beautiful golden white spark of light that is you, that is your unique stamp on this world, on your life, this imprint, seeing it start to come alive in your auric field, radiating out a beautiful 360 degrees. And one of these rays of your beautiful bright light, just feel it starting to effortlessly move down your torso, move through your feet into the earth, being effortlessly pulled by the magnetic force of the crystalline quartz core of the earth. Feeling yourself plugging in your beautiful light into the core of the earth, where you can feel all the stability, all the security that you need, that unconditional love, that nurturing. Just start to absorb all of the nourishments and the nutrients that you need to just amplify the feeling that you're feeling right now, peace and serenity. And on this next inhale, just start to move that beautiful, new, vibrant energy up through that column of light you've created, feeling it move into your physical being and expanding out into your auric field. Feeling it move through your heart, bringing you back to that place of innocence and awe so that you can see and look at the world differently from this moment on. And with this next inhale, just start to move that beautiful earth heart energy up and out the crown of your head, feeling it shoot past the moon, past the sun, past all the planets in our galaxy, breaking through that invisible barrier of all that you consciously know into the divine white light of unity consciousness, of the divine mind, of the creative source where infinite possibility lies, unlimited hope and potential. And just take a minute to acclimate with this electrical energy where anything is possible. Start to allow that to move back down into your auric field, just feeling yourself expand out now, filling up the entire room that you're in, expanding out wider, filling that the block that you're in, surrounding your home, your family, your community, your loved ones, and reaching out until you feel one of us or someone you love, and connecting in with them just like you would hold their hand. And with that, let's just open our heart even more as we listen to these beautiful tones for a few minutes. Go ahead and take a couple nice, long, deep breaths before you open your eyes, just letting those subtle, energetic frequencies shift and move through your body, absorbing them deeply. And then open your eyes and come back to reality, hopefully feeling a little lighter, a little renewed. Just so you know, I added a lot of sacred geometry in. We know that that really at its core is the source of everything on this planet. Everything in nature. Added some solfeggio frequencies in and balanced out and leveled out a lot of our emotions and bringing, calming them down and then bringing through awe and wonder and some archangel energy and some worldwide COVID resilience and releasing and purging of that as well. So how are you guys feeling?
Sleepy.
Fantastic.
Sleepy? That's good. That's good. Sleepy's good. I think we all need to rest more than we do. That's wonderful. Well, I, on behalf of everybody, just want to say thank you so much, everybody that tuned in today and everybody that's going to watch this on the replay. We so enjoyed being here. We've missed you the last couple of weeks, and we just hope that you felt this subject as deeply as we do in our hearts, and that you will move forward this week in deeper states of allowance and acceptance and joy at the bottom of everything. You know, when you unravel everything, love and joy prevail. They always will. So we will see you moving forward on the first Sunday of every month at this time, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And in the meantime, we'll be, communicating through our Muses page. So feel free to reach out to us directly if you have any questions or any topic ideas moving forward, or just interact with the community and share your experiences as we move throughout this next couple weeks. And hopefully we continue to wear the smiles that we have right now. So with that said, we will see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.